control the mind with the mind is like trying to grab fog. It's just gonna keep moving. The key is to take control of the system by taking control of a real physical entity. There are a lot of things happening in the world. Pandemics, there's strife in your life, or things are really challenging and you're feeling exhausted and you can't get mobilized and alert enough. You're angry, you're having the fight or flight response. And in those circumstances, it's very important that people take control of their mind and their body in a way that allows themselves to calm down, to reduce the so-called stress response. All trauma, anxiety, fears, they all map back to stress in some way. So the first thing for anyone trying to navigate stress, to understand what kind of stress they're dealing with, it's very hard to control the mind with the mind. So when you're stressed, just telling yourself, don't stress, don't stress, don't stress, calm down, rarely works.
What should they do in that moment?
They should look to the body. The nervous system includes the brain, but also all the connections to the body and back again. And so when you can't control your mind, you want to do something purely mechanical, like the physiological sigh. Because that, once you take control of the body in that way, then the mind starts to fall under the umbrella of this top-down control again. When you're really stressed on the hyper-alert side, it seems like the world is going very slowly. Knowing that, it's likely that you're going to feel impatient and if the world is moving much too slow. Sort of like if you're trying to get someplace on time and the person in front of you doesn't know where they're going. So you think, what is this person doing? Oh my goodness. And they're just looking for the right turn. And then when we are fatigued, it seems like the world is going really fast. So for people who are exhausted, everything feels overwhelming. Now, of course, the rate that things are actually moving in the world is the same, but the perception is that it's just too much and we can't cope. The reason I like the physiological sigh is we are all equipped with the pathway. There's a nerve called the phrenic nerve, P-H-R-E-N-I-C, that goes from the brain down to the diaphragm that controls that and then controls the lungs. When you decide to use the physiological sigh to calm myself, you're taking control of your internal landscape rather than trying to take control of your thinking.
You can't fix your mind with your mind.
Control the mind with the mind is like trying to grab fog. It's just gonna keep moving. The key is to take control of the system by taking control of a real physical entity. This isn't something that you build up over time and then are able to do, that you literally have a wire that goes down to your diaphragm in your abdomen that can move your lungs. When you do that exhale, your brain starts to calm down and then your mind can start taking control. It's almost like you're losing control of the automobile and you're trying to steer, but really there's another lever that if you just pull it, then the steering wheel will stabilize for you. So that's the way to think about the physiological sigh. On the other side of things, when you're feeling overwhelmed and fatigued, two ways to approach that. First is the kind of foundation of fatigue, which is almost always poor sleep and scheduling of sleep. This is something that doesn't get discussed a lot, but getting better at sleeping is a whole set of practices. But sleep is a slow tool. It's not a real-time tool. In real time, what you want to do is you want to bring more alertness into the system. Focus and alertness. The way to do that is to take advantage of a very well-established medical fact, which is that there's a direct relationship between how you breathe and your heart rate. When we inhale, it almost feels like everything's moving up. But actually what happens is our diaphragm moves down. When that happens, our heart literally gets a little bit bigger, which means that whatever blood in there is moving per unit time a little bit slower. And there's a set of neurons in the heart that sends a signal to the brain and says, hey, blood flow is slowing down. And the brain sends a signal back to the heart and says, okay, let's speed up, and speeds up the heart rate. When you inhale more vigorously or longer, you're speeding up your heart rate. And when you exhale, the diaphragm moves up, the heart gets a little bit smaller, then there's a signal sent to the brain, and the brain sends a signal back and says, slow down the heart rate. If you want to become more alert, simply make your inhales a little bit more vigorous or a little bit longer than your exhale. But when you get that troubling text message, or you see a post or a comment and you feel like you immediately want to respond, or you're going to say the thing that maybe you shouldn't say, or you're going to do the thing that maybe you shouldn't do, or you just want to be more targeted in your response, the key is to slow down the heart rate by making your exhales longer or more vigorous. So it could simply be learning to control your heart rate and thereby your mind using your breathing.
Don't think your way out of a moment of stress. Breathe your way out of a moment of stress.